Public.
What?
You're all up.
Hi,
in camera
Marty.
again?
Recording. Okay, we're recording, so we'll call the meeting to order together for the Pine Valley Committee. So at that point in time, I will do a quick roll call here. So Manning,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Gill,
Here.
Kramer,
Here.
Brewer,
Here.
Cooey,
Here.
and Ripchen.
Here.
Okay, we have 7 present, so we have a quorum. Item number 2 on our agenda is approval of agenda and verification of posting. So I, as county clerk, will verify this meeting was posted in accordance with Port Council's amendment approval today. So is there a motion on the floor to approve the agenda? That's by Manning, second by Cooey. All right, so first by Manning, second by Cooey to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carries. So your agenda is approved as well as verification posted through the county clerk. Next item on the agenda for you folks is your election of officers. So Ms. Jimerson, is there, did you have anything in a special order for this, or did the nominations from the floor as we have in the past, correct?
Nominations from the floor.
Okay, so we will elect a chair for the committee will be the first position to elect here. So is there a motion from anyone on the floor to appoint someone as a committee chair? So Mary Miller, who do you appoint?
Marty Brewer.
Marty Brewer,
I'll second that.
first by Miller, a second by Cooey to appoint Marty Brewer. I will ask for any other nominations from the floor 3
I will
times.
serve.
I'm sorry, what?
I will serve as chairman if you'd like.
Okay, Marty, you agree to serve as chairman of the Pine Valley Committee. Any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor? Third time I'll ask, are there any other nominations from the floor for the committee chair?
I move the call nomination.
Okay, so a motion by Manning to approve, or close nominations and cast unanimous ballot for Marty Brewer as chair. Is there a second for that?
Second.
A second for Mark Gill. Okay, first and second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. None, your motion carries. So Mr. Brewer, you are officially the chair of the Pine Valley Committee. I will hand over the meeting to you, sir.
Public comment. One from the public here, wishing to comment.
Do you need a vice chair, Mr. Chair?
Oh, I don't have that on my agenda. All right, open nominations for vice chair. Mary,
I nominate.
Mark Gill, vice chair, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Will he take it?
Sure.
Will he take it?
Yeah. My first meeting. Oh, I'd love to take it.
You'll do fine. All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the nominations and cast unanimous ballot.
I'll make that one.
I'm second.
Mark Bowie, seconded by Sandy Kramer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a chairman and a vice chairman. Now public comment. Didn't hear any before. Takes us down to child support. Nope, I've got a bad agenda. What does it take us to?
Takes us to approval of the minutes of the April 15th, 2024 Pine Valley and Child Support Committee
I thought we
meeting,
did
Mr.
that.
Chair.
Didn't we do that?
No.
Okay. I'm looking for an emotion then to approve minutes of the March 18th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Pat, Richard, do we have a second? Mark, Cody, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now public comment.
Agenda's on the floor.
Here we got up there, Ray.
Where is?
What the hell agenda do I have?
You're on the different one.
No, apparently. Anyway. Yeah, we don't have child support. All right, the Pine Valley 23 Financial Audit Report. Marissa Barr from Johnson and Block. Marissa, are you with us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. I see the presentation's already up there. I don't have to share it then. It's perfect. So my name is, well, actually now I'm Marissa Powers. And I am Pine Valley's audit supervisor. And I'm here today just to present you your December 31st, 2023 financial statements or audited financial statements. I believe every board member should have got copies of the full audit report in the required communication document, but what we're going to be going through today is what's on the screen is the presentation packet. So yeah, on the presentation packet is on the first screen. The first page is just an overview of our audit process. We performed it with generally accepted accounting principles and government auditing standards. We did issue an unmodified opinion, which is a good, clean opinion. It's the opinion that you want from your auditors. We did have two findings. We had two material weaknesses. One's for the segregation of duties, as you can see at the bottom of that page there on page 2. That's just because Pine Valley has limited financial resources and a limited amount of staff that you guys can employ, so you can't properly segregate accounting functions, which is very normal for a nursing home your size. You're not going to be able to properly segregate those unless you're a big corporation. And then we had material adjusting journal entries, and those adjusting journal entries are all listed. If you have I think you guys might have paper copies, I'm not sure, but if you do, it's the stapled copy with the blue border around it. And all the journal entries are the last couple pages of that document. Yep, the next page, the other matters reported to the board. We had no new policies adopted, no controversial transactions, no legal acts detected. We had no audit difficulties. The Pine Valley staff are always super easy to work with, very quick to get us items, and one of our easier audits we have. So good news all around. The staff is just very pleasant to work with. And then they did record all adjusting journal entries that we proposed. On page 4, this is just your statement of net position or your balance sheet as of December 31st, 2023. We also present the prior year, 2022, in your financial statements. So I'm just going to go very high level since these are from December 31st and we're now in May. But the audited total assets were ending balance approximately $20.9 million. Total deferred outflows of resources approximately $4.9 million. For total assets and deferred outflows of resources approximately $25.7 million. And deferred outflows of resources, they're kind of a paper number, I guess you could say. It's related to the Wisconsin retirement system and the Wisconsin life insurance OPEB. They're numbers that Pine Valley cannot control, and they come directly from the state. On page 5, this is just a continuation of the statement of net position or your balance sheet, but the liabilities and net position. So you had total ending liabilities, approximately $19 million. And I do want to point out in the long-term liability section, you'll see that there's a net pension liability for approximately $1.3 million, and last year it was 0. Again, this is for the Wisconsin retirement system, and this number comes directly from the state. Last year it was an asset, and this year it swung to a liability, and we have, or you guys have, no control over that. As I said, it comes literally directly from the state. And then your net position, or your equity, your total ending net position was approximately $3.8 million. On page 6 of the presentation, this is just a note table that breaks out your cash. So you do have designated cash, which is designated by you as a board, approximately $1.6 million. Then you have restricted resident trust funds of $8,000, and then unrestricted cash of approximately $3.8 million. On page 7, this is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, or your income statement. Again, for 2023 and 2022, you had total operating revenues approximately $10.4 million, operating expenses of $11.4 million, for an operating loss just shy of $1 million. And then you had total non-operating revenues, or actually net expenses, which is mostly made up of interest expense, of approximately 200,000 for a loss before transfers of 1.2 million. And then you had transfers in from the county, and then you transferred obviously some money back to the county that you approved. So the net transfer is approximately 1.2 million for a change in net position, which was net income just over $8,000. On the next page, it's page 8. This is just a trend analysis in your net position or your equity for the last 6 years. As you can see, there's the two lines, the red and the blue line. So the blue line is the total net position, which stayed consistent between 2022 and 2023. And then that red line, the unrestricted net position, you can see that it did increase quite a bit. That is mostly due to in 2022, that 1.9 million that is a restricted net position, that's related to the net pension asset, which again comes from the Wisconsin retirement system from the state. And this year it was a liability, so it's not in there. So that's why you're also unrestricted net position increased a lot. The next page, this is just a trend analysis of your operating revenues for the last 6 years. Pine Valley's total operating revenues, again, were 10.4 million, which is an increase approximately 750,000. I think the most increase due to the operating revenues were overall increased in like reimbursements from payer sources, especially in Medicaid and family care. Page 10, this is just your breakout of just those operating revenues. So your largest chunk is that blue chunk is your Medicaid at 52% or 5.4 million. And then Medicare follows at 24% or 2.5 million. On private pay at 14%. Your assisted living at 8%. Therapy and supplies at 2%. And then miscellaneous was less than 1%. And the overall makeup of this, like the breakout of the percentages, is very comparable to the prior year. This is your revenue by source. Again, this is just your operating revenues for the last 6 years. As you can see, as all those blocks, I guess you could call them, they all like slightly increased, but the largest ones that had increases were your Medicaid and private pay, the red and the blue ones. Medicaid, which we also wrap in family care with that, just had higher reimbursement rates under the patient-driven payment model. And then your private pay increased just because you had more private pay census days in 2023. On page 12, this is a trend analysis for the deficit reduction appeal awards, or the supplemental payments as we call them sometimes. As you can see, it's really dropped off over the years, especially this year. This comes from the state. This is what I've been seeing at all nursing homes. In fact, at some nursing homes, I saw that they owed money back. It's mostly, the decline is mostly due to the change in the Medicaid and family care rates and how those are calculated. So the state's supplementing less money to nursing homes. But again, I think the days are kind of gone where nursing homes can bank on this money coming from the state. Page 13, this is a trend analysis of your operating expenses. So now we're shifting from revenues to expenses. As you can see, in 2023, you did have an increase in operating expenses. They're approximately 11.4 million, which is an increase of 1.4 million. However, you also did have an increase in revenues to offset the increase in expenses. And looking at the expenses, it looks like the largest increases were related to wages. This is your breakout for your operating expenses. Nursing services made up the largest chunk at 56% or 6.4 million, as they should. General services were 15% or 1.7 million. Depreciation was 1.1 million or 10%. Administrative services, approximately 930,000 or 8%. And then all the other categories made up about 11%, which includes support and special services, assisted living, insurance, utilities, and just other miscellaneous expenses. And this makeup is overall very comparable to the prior year as well. On page 15, this is a trend analysis for the last 6 years for nursing services, which again is your largest expense category. And again, there was an increase approximately 1 million, which was mostly due to increase in wages, which in the wages and then all the FICA and the retirement and all the expenses related to that. On page 16, this is a trend analysis for the last 6 years for all the other categories. As you can see, all the categories stay fairly consistent. There's some fluctuations over the years. General services went up 200,000, but otherwise the rest of them are fairly consistent. On page 17, this is just some information on your census days or resident days. So Pine Valley did have an overall decrease in census days in 2023. Total census days were 23,536, which means your occupancy to available beds was approximately 80 to 81%. And then this last, yep.
May I interrupt you? How does that compare industry-wise?
Industry-wise, do you mean like the percent occupancy?
Yes.
That's pretty consistent. Yeah, I would say like the 80% is probably pretty average. What I'm seeing at nursing homes. I haven't seen a nursing home have over 90% capacity or 90% occupancy in a long time. Yeah, I would say like 80 to 85 is probably pretty standard. And then this last page is just some information on Pine Valley's debt. So the total ending balance of long-term debt was approximately 16.3 million, and the portion that is due in 2024, the principal portion, was just over 1 million. And then that bottom little chart on that page is just a breakout of what bonds are still outstanding in that debt. And Pine Valley actually did pay off one of the bonds this year. One of the bonds came due, or the note, sorry, was paid off in March of 2023. And there's still just 2 bonds that are outstanding. And that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions on the presentation or any of the audit report or the required communication document?
Questions?
Ann has a question.
And
Will you, do you think that maybe you can contact me so I can ask you about recommendations to just increase the Medicare income?
I'm sorry, what would?
I say that, do you think that maybe you and I can talk maybe sometime next week to see, so I can just ask you some questions about ways in which I can just improve our financial standing as far as our Medicare collection rates?
Yep, absolutely.
okay, well, thank you, Marissa.
Yep, thank you.
A lot of
Have a good
information
evening.
to digest, but,
Yes, it is.
but overall, the outlook is positive.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Get into Pine Valley financials, consideration of vouchers.
Okay, so bear with me. Teresa's not here, so I'm gonna be doing this, and I got my notes, so. Okay, so the cash receipt for the month was $867,845.06. And that includes the February Medicare payments. And then, of course, we had a little bit higher payroll because we had some retirements. And so our cash variance was to the good of $24,864.39. And then the good part about this was we did receive our Medicare payment that was late in March due to the holiday on April 1st. So if you go to page 2, I want to just highlight some of the checks. So I want to talk about check 10660. And actually, this is for the electrical services. We've had more sunny days thus far, and so you'll see, a decrease in our electricity bill. The next check I want to highlight is our credit card, and that's check number 10716. And so, we spent $400 on the company credit card to pay for the dietary manager certification exam, and she passed and she's now certified. We spent $225 on the heat/water pump valve. We spent $265 on the ice machine and water pump. And then we had to replace a microwave in the main kitchen for $400. If you go to the next page, and you look at check 10733, this is for Johnson and Block. I just want to let you, the audit that we just heard, that we have every year, this is not the final bill. We're expecting another bill from them, just to bring that to your attention. And then if you go down to check 10739, and this was for a mount bracket, for the front door, but that was, capitalized in our budget. Then if you go down to 10748, we, had to spend some money on the ice maker machine parts and repairs. But after it just kept breaking down, we had it in our capital budget to go ahead and purchase a new ice maker. We ended up buying 2 smaller ones, and we did not go over the $6,000 that we had allocated to replace those. And then Airmark has now turned into Vestas. They were acquired by them. So I'm still having a hard time getting in contact with the new provider for Airmark, who will put me in contact with Vestas, and this is our like laundry service. It actually did decrease from what it was last month. So it was like over 11,000, now it's down to 9. You go to the next page, I want to highlight 10769, and that is for our foreign staff members that we're going to be getting. And we just had to pay like some visa, like law firm fees for them. And they did submit the visa applications, and we're just awaiting the approval.
Excuse me, and are those the people then from, which?
Manpower.
Yes, but are they the ones coming from,
Yeah, Philippines, yes.
Philippines?
We were supposed to get 12, but I reduced it to 6 just due to the census. Because once they're here, you do have to provide, like housing and food and transportation for them until you can get them trained and making a steady paycheck.
Can I ask, how long are they here for? Are they here?
I think we have a 3-year contract commitment with them.
And they stay that long?
Well, it depends on the visa. It's between 1 and 3 years is the plan. And I'm not expecting them to come until next year, because, or probably in early the next year, thus after, because it just takes a long time with that visa process.
And Mr. Fair,
Yes, Candace Fetch.
do we know, are they H visas? Do we know the type of visa?
I think I saw HB.
H-1B visas. Okay, so yes, they can then stay out, however they're approved, however long their approved contract is, they can stay. It's usually, they may have to travel back annually for a review and a renewal, just depending on what the stipulations of their visa are. Since I used to do that.
Okay, well, another question, where are they gonna stay? Do we have to, we have
So
to
I
house
would-
them?
I would have to find housing for them. I've already, I got a contact from the corporate attorney who put me in contact with someone else, so I'm looking and exploring options. I know that there's a site here that another company is renting. There's dorms that he's using, and I did reach out over and send an email and ask if I could have, what would be the possibility of renting some of that space, because it just seems like it would be a bit more cost effective than like an apartment or.
That's over and above working wage, a good wage
Yes,
that we have to do this.
Yes, but once we get them trained and they're earning the same paycheck, then we don't have to provide, these services for them anymore. So my goal is to have them cross-trained in CNAs and in the CERF. And then they would work for us until they make a decision once their visa is, expired to go back, or they can renew.
Well, if they're here and they're here for a year and they don't get to come back, we have to redo all this education and everything for the next batch coming in.
Well, with the census, that's why I cut it down to 6. Because my plan is to grow the census, and I actually have like started expanding the referrals. But it's kind of like a trade-off to get people who want to work, so we're not short-staffed and using staffing agents.
I know, I was just worried about the budget.
Me too.
Well, remember this. If the ultimate would be closing a wing. We would have to close a wing to be devastated, so.
Yes.
Gotta keep that census up, keep people employed.
How many do you think are out there now?
The prior administrator initially made a plan for 12, but because of the census, I cut it down to 6. Because once they're here, they are your responsibility. And I felt like 12 would be too much at the moment, just with the census and just the budget and things. So just being considerate. I thought it was better to, if we needed more, to then go and follow the process to request more versus bringing more over that we don't need. And then we still have to provide employment housing.
I understand, but how many residents do we have?
Right now, there's 60, and one went out to the hospital today.
So there's
And there's
59.
one pending admission tomorrow. So it'll be 60 as of midnight, as of midnight.
That's just in the
And it's building it in the assisted living, there is 15. One gave a 30-day notice to move out, and then we have a waiting list for that, so someone will be moving in by the end of the month.
That's your max, 15.
16 is my maximum for the CPRF.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But, and the ideal situation would be they have to be sufficiently staffed where we don't have to contract.
Yeah, that is the plan. So I am, looking at different staffing, strategies. I'm trying to be more flexible with the schedule as far as new people that we hire, because, I took a training and they're saying like, nursing homes are really gonna have to be, just offer that flexibility with their staff. So if I have someone and they wanna be part-time, then I am working to accommodate that. It's not very much that I'm unwilling to accommodate, but again, you just have to think about fairness across.
Scheduling, people there.
Right, and with scheduling, too, just again, that flexibility and just trying to accommodate where I can. The one thing that I can't accommodate right now is like not being able to work on the weekends, because now the current team does rotate the weekends, and I just don't think it's the best practice to bring people in, and then they don't do that, and I'm expecting others to. Then I would like to highlight check 10776. That's the Omni Technology. This is our annual fire alarm inspection that we have to have every year as a city requirement. And that was budgeted because we knew that it was coming. Staffing agency this month is a little bit higher than what it was last month. It's, at $29,292.50.
What check is that?
I know, I'm just pointing that out. That's the total of all the staffing agencies. And that is all for the vouchers. Sure.
Folks that are going to, how long are they in the contract in place?
Between 1 and 3 years.
So we can, like, contract, they can't come over to us. for that
No,
time.
so they will be,
It will be,
yeah, we're paying them, and until I can get them trained to where they're earning a sufficient check, I have to provide like housing, food, and transportation. So my plan is to get them trained timely, let them start working, and then kind of decrease the support.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes.
And realistically, though, even these workers are far less costly than our contract, some of our contract workers that
Yeah,
we're getting.
because they will be,
Local.
the understanding that I have is that they will be getting paid the wage in which we pay our own staff. So, and they are not, they can get earned overtime too.
I'll entertain a motion to pay the vouchers. Approve payment. Mark, please, seconded by Manning. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Carried. Accounts receivable trend report. Yeah.
So, again, you want to be under, 40 days, and for the month of April, we were actually at 31 days. And actually, we did get a higher daily rate, using the 2023 audit finance. So we actually did pretty good this month as far as our account receivable collections and balance. This is the sheet here, everybody.
Census recap.
So this has been a challenge this month. We budgeted for 66, and our high this month was 62, and our average was 60, and our low was 58. CBRF, we had a dip because one person gave a 30-day notice and intends to move out. But again, we do have a waiting list, and I'm expecting that person to move in by the end of the month. That will be private pay. And then to help with the census, I'm working with the social workers to expand our referral sources. I'm just reaching out to the hospitals, letting them know that we have beds available, and just trying to drive up our census that way.
Okay. Financial report. Flip side.
Yes. Okay, when you look at the balance sheet and you look down at our operating cash, we have 3.3 months of our operating cash. And then the operating cash, you'll notice that it's a bit lower, and that's because we used the new audited figure for the 2023 audited finance. So we're still pretty good. When you go to, the statement of operations,
Okay, let me find that.
that is the second to the last, that's the second to last
Yeah.
page. So we're down, 159 days from our budget due to the census, so the census was lower than this is low our, days. And then, we had a retirement in the CBRF, and then they also had an increase in their use of staffing agency because of that retirement, and then just some staffing shortages. Then we had, the maintenance director, retirement payout. And then what also affected our budget a bit more was the cost of Omnitech went up a bit. But we had to have that annual, fire inspection to increase and to satisfy the state for our annual survey. And that's just something that we have to do every year. So again, we're still okay financially. Just a few things that went up in the census. That's all.
So where are we in?
We're done with that.
Okay. Takes us to your report.
Yeah, well, I just want to go over, you guys have this back page back here. This is just a recap of everything that we talked about.
Statement of operations? No.
The cash flow sheet.
Cash flow sheet.
So,
Right at top.
again, you'll see, just some different things that affected it from January to April. We had 2 holidays, we had sick payout, property and liability insurance. We also had 3 payrolls in March, and then we didn't receive our Medicare payment until April Friday. And then March's Medicare, payment, was affected by the Easter holiday. So basically the same things that I just talked about, but just a breakdown of, from January to April, and then we also have last year's on there also. Any questions?
No. I guess there are no questions. So are you doing an administrator's report?
Yes. Oh, I can go right into that?
Yeah.
Okay. So for my administrative report, I just have a few things. So I want to introduce my new HR, human resource generalist. Her name is Angela. She's been in Pine Valley now. She is super amazing and awesome. Just a really positive person, outgoing. I'm hearing nothing but positive feedback from the staff. She's very helpful. She also trained as a nursing home administrator too, so just having a person there who understands and I can bounce ideas off has been really, really tremendous. And she's been very helpful with just pointing out things and bringing things up. And it just forces me to think, and, you know, I think we're learning from each other because I'm trying to encourage her to take her
Welcome.
exams. And I'm gonna keep asking, of course. So just a really positive life. And then, my new director of maintenance, Chad, again, just very positive, outgoing, helpful. I am actually, you know, just improving my knowledge of the Pine Valley's water system. Because if I had to do it, I mean, oh my gosh, I could, you know, but it's hard. So just leave it to the person that does that. Very knowledgeable. I am, again, learning a lot from him. He has kind of came and like just gave a lot of renewed energy to his maintenance staff. He has a lot of great ideas. He's really working with me to try to make his team happier. And I do see changes in his team, as far as just making sure that everybody feels valued, everybody feels heard, doing different things with the schedule to help him ensure that work-life balance. And one of his maintenance team members actually was really happy that they were able to go to another facility, shadow and learn and just develop their skills, because I understand the fire safety, but I'm probably not the best teacher because I'm just getting to start doing it. And so administrators usually struggle with teaching that part of it. So, I sent him to another county, home, and they both just came back very happy, very enthused. And this maintenance worker was actually happy that he would learn the things that he always wanted to learn. So that really made me happy. They, are happy. And then with the solar project, we did get notification from the IRS that it was time to submit our application. We submitted the initial application, and then we got a second, and it was just proven to be a bit challenging. So we kind of sought help, but we didn't get anywhere. And then fortunately, Larry, from finance came on, and he knew a lot, and he's able to help Therese navigate that so we can get that, try to apply for that credit. And then he's also been able to help us come and explore other options with it. Just like if the materials made in the US, we can possibly qualify for some additional money. And so we're working on that. You have anything you want to add?
No, I just, it looks like we're gonna get the 30% credit. We got an extension on it, so, we're gonna do it. We working with the solar panel guys, the providers, to see if it's all American made. If we get over 40% American made, we pick up an extra 10%, which is you know, it's $30,000 or $40,000, so that's real money. So we're working on that. But the credit should be somewhere between $90,000 and $120,000.
Good.
The next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was survey, because I thought that I would have a meeting to just discuss the survey with you, but I can just briefly go over it with you now, and then if you want to know more about it, just ask me. I'm more than willing to train and educate you.
Survey of what?
Our annual survey that we have to have every year. So the surveyors ironically came on April 1st at like 6:30, and I thought it was some type of April Fool's joke, but it was actually them. They came in, they did our survey, they exited our building one day early. We did get 2 quality of care sites, and 4 life safety tags. He initially told me it would be 3, and he was thinking that we would get the 4th, but he had to confirm with his boss, and then they get together and they go over all the sites to make sure that they can actually cite you for it. And then when he came back, he decided to give us the 4th site. So we did get a citation because, which is F609, because so back in August, there was an incident of abuse that was reported. And they said that we did right by reporting it, but the issue was that the police was not called. Because there was a physical assault, that an allegation of a physical assault that the resident was making. So they felt like by law, we should have called the police, and if the cops decided they were not going to come out, then we should have got a name, a badge number, and a report number, and turned that in with our self-reportable. So that was one, and then we got a citation because when the surveyor went into the kitchen, he found some items in each of the kitchenettes that were not appropriately dated and labeled, especially with attention to the dairy products like the milk, the Mighty Shakes, some foods in the pantry. And the reason we didn't get a higher site was because we were able to show that they did receive training. So those were the 2 quality of care sites, no medication errors, no things with like actual care. And then the life safety was just fire stopping, penetrations in the wall. Then we had, some of the residents would complain about the air being too much or the heat being too much. So you can buy like diverters to put them over the vent. And it kind of helps with mitigating that flow of the air, either hot or cold. So he said that they were out of compliance because they were too big. So we immediately took those down, ordered the right size, and then we installed the new ones. And of course, we took pictures of everything that we did. We updated some of our policies, and they were fine with that. And then the last thing we got cited on was that they said that we were using the wrong surge protector. So he went into the lower level data room, and that surge protector was not UL certified. So he said that it could start a fire and things, and it just was not according to the national fire protection standards that we needed. So that equipment was actually hooked up by our television provider. So I didn't want to unplug anything and mess anything up, like sitting the phones down and everything. So we ended up calling MIS, who ended up calling our cable provider, and they came out that day and changed all of the power cords to meet the UL standards. Near misses that he did not cite us on, he found some extension cords in resident room that families bring in. So I did have the staff send out a voice bomb letting them know that, okay, you cannot bring extension cords in here. If you feel like you need one, please let me know and we will get the appropriate one. And they were notified that this is a safety hazard, which is why we're saying they can't. So housekeeping is to be on alert and let their boss know and myself know of residents who have these cords, and then we will explain it to the resident and families. And the plan is to buy UL certified, like power source outlets, so they can plug things in, like different things like lamps and their iPad chargers and phones and things that they want to plug into. So I did write the plan of correction and I submitted it to the state. They accepted the plan of correction for the care, and then they sent me a letter accept after some back and forth with the surveyor. Very nice guy, but very particular. And both of us are particular, so you can see the challenge that we have, going back and forth, but he accepted it. And then today I got an email saying, okay, we need, additional things. So this can go on for like 45 days. I resubmitted what they asked me for, so now I'm just waiting on them. We had a PBJ audit, and sometimes you just get selected at random. And the big citation now with CMS, as far as the PBJ, is just people not taking staff not taking their breaks and it not being appropriately clocked. And so I think they're gonna come back with feedback about that. And we will just, the plan is to make sure that if a manager works the floor, we're still clocking their breaks appropriately. Like, okay, they go and clock out for their break. And that's just a simple fix. And that's standard across the board with all staff. They have to clock in and out for their breaks. But I don't see any other issues with the PBJ. They're just they're just addressing this issue with all nursing homes across the country. There are various reasons why you could be cited for an audit. You never know. It could be because you had a turnover in a key position. It could be because it's just your number to be called to get cited. They never really let you know. They just send you the information that you're going to be audited and the time frame they need it by, and you just comply, and we did. And then actually, when I was sitting here, I got an email from the auditor telling me that they needed information about contracted staff. So I will address that in the morning. What you have here is a draft of my RFP. It is very long, I'm sorry. And this is for a new electronic health record system. So AHT is being acquired by Richland Care. And so that was essentially our contract is ended with American Health Tech, AHT. And so I just thought it would be in the best interest to find out and to just do an RFP to make sure that we're getting the best possible service that not only meets the clinical needs of the staff, but it's easy for the staff to catch on. The staff feel like it's user friendly and that we're being cost effective. So this is long. I tried to cover all of the areas in the RFP that we would need, like giving some background and description so they can present an AHT program or that matters to us and that we need, such that can handle our bars, our TARs, all of our charting, documentation, e-scribing, orders from doctors and the pharmacy, and just what we need from them to make sure that we're having an adequate system. I included information about how we're going to select a vendor, and then we would like to have our revenue cycle. Because we use AHT now for our PPJ, that's imperative that we are able to generate the reports and easily transmit that data to CMS or any requesting entities. Of course, they have the contact person on there. And then if you look down in section 3, submission of proposal, anything that you see in blue, I'm probably going to have to edit because every day that passes, you have to change the date. So I have dates in here in which I have a plan to have this RFP like out and ready for submissions by 5/24, but I may have to change that date. We already started our vendor selection demonstration just when they told us that AHT was going to be going to point-click care. Of course, people just, when they knew that we had AHT, they just started approaching us. So I just felt like it was better to just listen to see what they had to offer. And then you'll see just some financial information about, our money and how we might use the system, our scope of work. And then you'll see a loan provider section. And this is just them answering questions about their product so we can look and make sure that it is a good fit.
And
Yes.
personally, I think it's vital that whatever system we take, be able to talk to the other systems. Personally, I was amazed that the Richland Hospital cannot transmit information to the University Hospital in chart form.
That is an issue that we're having too, because So what I did was I asked Richard what they use. They use an older version or of software that I didn't even think was still around anymore. But I asked them about interface and they told me that it's a possibility with Matrix Care, but not with Point Click Care. And when we did the demos, what I found interesting was Point Click Care, they did not want to, like, I felt it was imperative for the people that was going to use it to have a voice and say, okay, can your system do this? Can it do that? To help make their jobs easier, to just make the flow of everything just work very well with other systems. And the big underlying issue that my team had with Point Click Care is that when we asked them to show us demos, they told us, okay, well, you can just go online. They did not want to meet with the team, and the team was very dissatisfied with that. So we have to do the RFP, but they're adamant that they're not interested in Point Click Care because of that. Because I have a lot of older staff, and it's imperative that we have somebody come on site and be hands-on and help with this transition from AHT or to whatever new electronic health record system and revenue management system we are going to use. And that was something that my team just felt really unhappy with Point Click Care. So they understand that we have to go through an RFP process, but that, you know, that on-site hands-on support is really pivotal to us. If you look at on page 37, this just, this is a pricing and delivery schedule. And I did one for the 80 beds and one for the assisted living because there's going to be two different costs for that. So this is imperative, like I want them to fill out the sheet and give me like a breakdown of the expenses. So this is just a way that I can highlight the expenses and what it's costing me to go to another system. And I just need to ask and get some support from Mike about any legal words that I need to put in, and because I'm not a lawyer, and he said he would help me with that. And then this should be ready to get presented for proposals.
Okay,
Um,
pretty extensive. You've asked every question that I think could be asked.
Oh, I tried. And Barb is gonna, and IT is gonna look at it too to make sure I'm not missing anything or if I have too much. And yeah, so, because I just want to get a really good sound system for the team to use.
So do you think you want approval for this committee?
Yeah, I mean,
I think
there's gonna be
it
revisions,
would be
but
appropriate.
what do you think? I can wait for revisions, or I have a few more things that I have to add.
Then, I mean, if this isn't your final version, I would wait until it's your final version and bring it back.
Okay, I can wait on it.
Well, or we could give you that's fine, we'll wait. We know it's there. We know you're working.
The SP payments, now that thing, right, that's a lot right there, okay. So, of course, we had our audit and our SP payments is based, and jump in if I say something wrong. It's based on, our SP payments is based on our cost report. So after DHS and the state, audited and things, they came back and said that they wanted Pine Valley to return $82,000 to them. And we're one of 4 nursing homes because our cost was not low as initially thought.
Yeah, correct. They did an initial payment of $143,000, I believe, last year based on a estimated cost report or a non-finalized cost report. And they came back with, they did their cost report and requested an $85,000 refund. During the process of sitting down with Bill, who does our Medicaid cost reporting, discussing that and eventually appealing that finding. That if you recall, that used to be about $500,000. Last year it was $500,000. It went down to $143,000 last year. And now it's going down to nothing. So we really got to investigate what's happening there. We don't seem to be making any more money. We seem to be losing as much or more money, and yet our cost reports seem to be taking a dive. So we got to kind of figure out what's going on there. And I think the guy that we're going to work with, Bill, That is Brian, or Bill Brian, right?
Yeah.
The guy that does your cost report.
Yeah.
We're gonna work with him to try to figure out if we can, if you redo it to see if we can see if there's any errors in it, and then also to appeal it.
Yep.
The mechanism.
And then a key issue with this, SP payment is that they don't wait until everyone gets their cost report because everyone does their audits at different times. And then they did not share their calculation of how they came up with the fact that we owe, which is why we're going to appeal it. But one thing that I think I heard correctly was he was saying that, our rates can also be affected too by just the services we provide. Like we do really, really well in our nursing care, but as far as the supportive like services like maintenance and housekeeping, we usually tend to be more lean on that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing and it's not really a good thing. It has very small significance, but some nursing homes, it can have a big impact. And I don't think that's the driving force behind it. It's just we reporting more cost this time than what we did, even what we did last year in our cost report, which is why they want some money back. Now, is this going to affect the next SP payment we get? Possibly. It may be a significantly smaller amount or none at all. Now, they gave us the option to pay it back in, I guess, the equivalency of installments.
Yeah, they would adjust the rates over a 3-month period, so you'd be adjusting each rate as they were billed out.
We just think that because the time that they give you for the installments is really not very much. So I just think it's better if we just go ahead, give them the check for the 82,000 and then just be done with paying it. But we are looking to appeal it. And so we're gonna work with Brian and then he will just work with me and Larry and Therese, our billing office manager, to see if we have something that we can appeal.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
and you'll note that, you know, what she said tonight is that the state is just significantly reducing the amount of money they're giving because reimbursements have gone up. And I suspect that's what we're going to find out as to why it's so low. And, you know, as you saw, we have plenty of money in our operating reserve, and it will be very burdensome to do the payments. As I was speaking with Larry and he was talking with Therese, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it that way. So that's where we have all
You're
spoken.
talking about time value of money of
Right.
a couple months, is all you're talking about. You're gonna repay it back over a couple months versus a one shot, and the bookkeeping and administrative that she's gonna have to go through and readjust all those rates or do adjustment in her system coming in, it's gonna be.
So it's just, seems like a more viable option to write out the check, pay it in one sum, and then get to the bottom of it, attempt to figure out what's going on, and then hopefully, you know, file an appeal, and if it goes somewhere, it does, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least then we won't have to drag it out over months and make Therese do all that back work, so.
And then earlier in January, Leading Age is actually helping with because the SP funds, because DHS had, like $7 million that was just there and it was then put aside for county homes. And so we had to do a survey and they said, okay, well, do you want the SP payments in July in one lump sum, or do you want them split up over time, but you won't get a December payment? And so after just looking at the budget and talking with the business office manager, we came up with the thought that we should just get the SP payments like we have, which is usually in July. And then they would skip December and then we would get another payment. And then the only concern was that our cost report was, and were we gonna report lower expenses or how would that affect us? So we don't know DHS's calculations and how they came up with the fact that we would owe, but this is why we are appealing their decision.
yeah, I think we should. Doesn't make sense because we're getting higher reimbursements, so therefore decrease the amount of subsidy, basically. That's what we're talking about.
And then the last thing that I have on my administrative report is that I did tentatively reschedule the dementia training for June 25th and June 26th. And the dementia training, again, is covered by a grant that we received through Leading Age to cover the cost of the dementia training.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
And Mark, that's why farmers' hat mills are about like this, looking in their mailbox for the subsidy check.
That's.
Yeah, that's fine. You can handle it. Okay, does that conclude our business for the night?
Yeah, I'm done.
Looking for a motion.
I do have one question on something the lady had up on the board, if I read it right with the glare up there. I think at the very last page, did our long-term debt go up this last year? I thought I seen it like at 16 million something and go to 17 million.
No, it should have been, there should have been about.
I think she said 16.
I think she said $1 million was taken off.
It went down.
Yeah, I thought that counted.
Should have gone.
One bond was paid off, so it went from 17 something down to 16.
And I
Something.
read it wrong.
I think, yep, you were reading it backwards.
It did go down.
Okay, Mr. Manny, I'll accept your motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
you are the chair